So you are attracted to a document that has as its mission to establish a sound ethical foundation for the emerging global society and to help build a sustainable world based on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. You believe that you should play some sort of a role in the construction of this vision of the future, but then you can't help but ask yourself, what can I do? I'm just an ordinary person. I've never organized anything. It must take some kind of a special person to put together this movement. That's what this show is about. People who are coordinators, and they're people just like you.
Hi, we're interviewing tonight organizers from around the country who have been working with Earth Charter in their towns and communities. And so I want to begin with Andy Robson from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'd like to introduce you to Chulene Carson from Atlanta, Georgia. Introduce you to Dick Watson, who is an Earth Charter organizer from Moodus, Connecticut. I'd like you to meet Heather Carver from Portland, Oregon. I'd like you to meet Kathleen Reel from Davenport, Iowa. I'd like you to meet Linda Osborne, Earth Charter organizer from Chicago, Illinois. I'd like you to meet Rob Petito. He's an Earth Charter organizer from Amherst, Massachusetts.
It's easy to start thinking that certainly, to put together something as large as an Earth Charter Summit, a person must have special skills or special experiences. But that's not necessarily true. Let's take a few moments to meet these organizers and see what it is they have in common, and see what it is that makes them so special, and to see if you have those same skills.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, and I believe you are retired. And
yes, I call it semi-retired.
Semi-retired.
I'm a former minister, and they never retire. They just keep working on in smaller spurts.
What church?
The Episcopal Church in America.
I'm a college professor at University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh in English department, but in recent years Associate Dean in the College of Letters and Science. So I had contact with faculty people and students from a number of, well, from many different departments and areas, so which turned out to be very good for this project.
Tell me what you do professionally, or is that a word to use for your job description?
Except it's a little complicated in that officially I'm retired, but I'm also working at a retreat that we have near Davenport, and I work on that as a volunteer.
Who is the we?
We is the Congregation of the Humility of Mary. Sisters, that's the community that I belong to.
So you're a nun?
I am a nun. We prefer sister.
Sister, I know you do, but I just want to make sure everybody knows what that is.
That's right.
What is it you do in your real life? What kind of work?
I'm a graphic designer and an artist, and you know, everything that you would think is the kind of like not organized kind of person, really.
So are you in school right now?
I am. I'm finishing up at Hampshire. I'll be graduating in May.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
So, who are these folks? Well, they're people from every walk of life. Some people at the beginning of their careers, some at the end. They range from students to business people to academics to artists to retired people. They come from all walks of life, all ages, and all demographic groups. It turns out, if you want to be an Earth Charter coordinator, the only true important quality is a love for the Earth Charter.
Ruth Ann Kerbin.
Lauren Kerbin.
Our workshop was how one person can make a difference.
My name is Bert Kempner, and I'm going to talk about Earth Charter
Terry
and
Kelly.
the arts.
The group that I facilitated was creating a circle where we all belong with the Earth Charter.
And I went to Scott Farrell's session.
And I led and am representing the Earth Charter Spiritual
Ben
Community
Keys, and I
Workshop.
facilitated the group on education with Marcia Guerrero and Barbara Cloud Wiseman.
I'm Jan Roberts, and I want to thank you all for a very great day today.
You're probably wondering, what kind of experience in organizing must these people have? Certainly they must have something in their background that gives them the skill to put together a movement that starts with a day or a week of information and networking and fun. Well, let's ask them.
Now, had you ever done any kind of community organizing before?
No, not that I can remember.
Okay. So Heather, have you been a community organizer before?
No.
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 So what made you brave enough to attempt to organize for the Earth Charter?
Desperation. I found the Earth Charter Community Summits on the web, and I thought, this sounds wonderful. We should have had one in Portland. And I can't imagine why no one organized one here in Portland, and I kept going back to the website, like, I think once a week, just hoping that someone would have signed up to do one in Portland that I could just attend. And it wasn't happening, so finally I complained to someone else who put a firm hand in the middle of my back and said, I'll back you up.
Excellent, excellent.
Whoops, what did I get myself into?
Have you had community organizing experience before?
I started young and didn't realize what I didn't call it that, so to speak. I come from a background of community organizing folks. My father, my mother within the community, so we did it naturally, you know, like, okay, you move to a community and you get involved.
Your folks were involved in Harlem, right? In New York, yes.
My father was what they call the president of the block, and that was the neighbors, community type, recreational, social stuff, especially during the 60s.
Well, not really. I had been involved in a group that had some events, and I was part of a committee on it, but that was the most I'd ever done, and it really wasn't. I would say that was my thing to do, and it's not something that I feel I'm particularly great at or anything. It's not something that I just love to do. It's something that, you know, I reluctantly do.
We make this gift of service to all our brothers and sisters in the human family, especially to the children, to those who suffer in poverty and under oppression, and to future generations. We make this gift of service to the greater community of life.
And today, we came together and we launched in the United States, and make no mistake about this, we launched the Earth Charter, our Declaration of Interdependence.
The reason that you're even interested in being an Earth Charter coordinator is that you've been inspired by the Earth Charter. You see in this document a framework for a global ethical community that respects everything, including the environment and all the people inside of it. When did that happen for you? Let's listen as each of the coordinators talk about how they learned about and became inspired by the Earth Charter.
Rob, how did you get introduced to the Earth Charter?
It was actually through an organizer friend of mine who knew my course of study and knew that it would fit very well. And this was about 2 years ago, and just handed me one of the copies. Actually had a box of the brochures, and I looked at it and said, oh man, this is the missing link in so many areas of my interest. And then I took a bunch more with me on the road. You know, by and large found out about the summits and just decided to give it a go at my school, Hampshire College. And so we put on our first one in October 2005, our first summit. And
What excited you and made you get yourself involved?
Oh, from first, as with many people, from the first reading, I thought that it was, it spoke eloquently and powerfully about things that were increasingly important. Its relevance was apparent. Mm-hmm. And I was always attracted to things with an international flavor, and it's, you know, at that time I was thinking of it in terms of, when I just had the document, in terms of international things. And so I think it was all of those things.
Linda, tell me how you first got introduced to the Earth Charter.
Well, I was at an event, a weekend event, with a lot of workshops and things like that, and at the end of one of the workshops, it was, no, I can't remember what the workshop, O'Brien Swim. Anyway, at the end of his workshop, he said, and by the way, there's one more thing. And he held up this document and he said, you really need to read this as an amazing document. And he didn't say a lot about it, but he just kind of said, find out about it. And they had a scroll at this event that you could go and sign, and it was a scroll that was saying, you know, we endorse the Earth Charter. So I went and checked it out and I read it and I thought, wow, this is an incredible document. And not just incredible because what it said was profound, which I just personally felt like it was. The ideas that were in there were things that I believe in, but I loved the way it was framed. But I also read the history that was on the brochure and how it was created, and that just really lit me up. The idea of a document that was created internationally, I liked that. The level of people that were involved, the fact that, you know, they put so much care into writing a document that would translate well, and that, you know, that could be also, you know, a living document. Like, I just loved that.
What attracted you to the Earth Charter?
Well, I came back to Atlanta in 2003, and at that time, coming back, I was going through a career change and wanted to do some things in the community and did not know what. So I started thinking about it, and I said, well, I want to do, you know, some social justice type, some community type. No, I want to recycle, and I kept going back and forth. And I went to one of my meetings and I heard about Earth Charter. Somebody was talking about Earth Charter, and they gave this great demonstration about the areas, the different principles, the 16 principles in the 4 different areas, everything from respect for the community, ecological integrity, democracy, and peace. And I said to myself, you know, I can do that. And I said, well, you know, I contacted the volunteer coordinator and said, this will give me a great environment to do everything that I want to do, and I can flip-flop back and forth and actually make a contribution in all areas.
So it was the holistic vision.
It's the holistic vision, yes, I'm sorry, yes,
the Earth
yes.
Charter, the interconnectedness of all the issues. How did you get attracted to the Earth Charter?
Well, I was on a retreat one day and got involved talking to a woman who had, a nun who ran the place, and we got talking science and some of the fun things that I enjoy on the side. And she's reached over and handed me this pamphlet and said, have you heard of the Earth Charter? I said, no, I haven't. She said, well, you go try this out. And I went back to my room that day and read that pamphlet from cover to cover, and I said, this has everything to do with all the good things that I've been interested in all my life.
Right.
This is where I want to end my life.
Tell me, Heather, how did you get attracted to the Earth Charter? What brought you to the Earth Charter?
Well, the first time I read the whole thing, I had attended a day-long seminar on globalization, and someone had left a stack of Earth Charter brochures on the tables at lunch. So I picked it up, and I'd heard of it before but didn't really know that much about it. Took it home, read it, and said, wow, this is fabulous. Everyone needs to know about this. This is great. You know, this is the planet I want to live on.
Well, what specifically was in there that just made you go, this is fabulous? What in the Earth Charter?
Everything was in there.
Okay.
I mean, it had concern for the environment and peace and social justice and everything that, you know, just reading the newspaper or whatever, there are all these problems and it's so overwhelming. But there are so many problems, you don't know where to start. If you did want to take action, volunteer for something, it's where do I start? But then reading the Earth Charter, they were all in there. And it showed really how they were all interrelated. And so what I got from that was that any action that you take is important. No one person can do everything. But that whatever I can do, whatever calls to me or to anyone else, taking action to make a difference in some area actually affects everything.
Now that you've been inspired by the Earth Charter to engage in Earth Charter activities, where do you start? Given that there is an infinite number of ways to construct an activity, what advice could you get from people who have already done it? Let's listen to each of the Earth Charter coordinators and hear what they have to say.
So to someone watching who has not ever organized anything and might be wanting to do something with the Earth Charter, do you have any word of advice on how to get started?
Well, I say begin small. Don't bite off more than you can chew, and just talk to people for a while. And some of those people can be influential ones in town. We started at the top and went to our top selectman and didn't get very far, so we went back down to the bottom, and that's where it worked.
That's where the energy is,
It is. And the wonderful thing is that most people you talk to will really respond when they hear what this is about, and they say, that's what I've been thinking about, or worrying about, or wish I could have something to do with. It sells itself.
Then how did you start? How did you make it happen?
Well, I started with the community that I was a part of, my Buddhist community, and so we were able to have a venue for free and some people that I could talk into helping to make it happen, and as well as a few other friends. We only had, I think, 10 weeks to do the first one, because the date was set, because it's the same date nationally. And somehow everyone came up with these wonderful ideas, and you know, just at each meeting we'd read part of the Earth Charter, and you know, I just kept encouraging people, just read it. It's so inspiring, you know, and maybe you get something different out of it every time, but people got really jazzed about it, and we had, it wasn't a huge event, but it was really nice.
What did it look like? What happened there?
We had a couple of different speakers. The first one was from a community organization that works with at-risk kids, and I thought she was a really inspiring speaker, but I could tell that some people in the audience were trying to figure out, what does this have to do with the earth? Because they were just thinking environment. And then our next speaker was from the University of Portland, and he's a lifelong peace activist, so his thing was about peace, but he was familiar with the Earth Charter and had been for a while. So he immediately started talking about how the previous speaker's work was so much a part of creating a peaceful world. And there were all these little ahas. And for me, the best thing, after we'd been knocking ourselves out for a few weeks trying to make this happen, a neighbor of mine who I had practically dragged to the event came up to me afterwards, and she's an activist, and she said, you know, I get so discouraged about the state of the world, and then I come to something like this, and it reminds me to have hope.
The first summit was organized on a shoelace and with no real, no resources, no time, really, or very little time, because I was new in that position. But we had a panel to discuss issues at the university that related to sustainability, and we're able to get people from the administration of the university, as well as students and a guest speaker who was a student at another university, to speak about mainly the improving the infrastructure at the university in terms of water use, energy use, and other forms of consumption. And it turned out to be very inspiring and led to a lot of support from the university for a continuation of the project. And of course, we're inspired by what you did on the national scene. And we developed it from there in the sense that we invited anybody who was interested to participate in the planning of the events, to suggest ideas. We made contact with student organizations that were likely to be helpful and interested. Student Environmental Action Coalition Sikh was one, which is, continues to be a very important element. Some of the political organizations, the Green Party, the Democratic Party, anybody who was interested like that, the students from there came in. The international students have been very supportive, and so on. So we had buy-in from a number of different areas, and then increasingly over the years, and it's now been
5 years later,
5 years,
yeah.
More increasingly faculty have come on board, and not only in terms of being interested in and involved in the summit, but also in terms of integrating Earth Charter principles, or at least discussing it, at least in their courses, and so on. So it's become a very interesting part of the university's identity, publicity, and of course it's probably the biggest annual event of its type on campus.
Inspired by the Earth Charter, you've decided, okay, let's have an event. What other tips can you get from our present coordinators that will help you on your adventure?
How do you feel about the world today? And if you had no restraints, what would you want to do to change it? Then look at it and realistically, what type of framework would you need to have in your possession to make that change? For example, the Earth Charter. Pick one.
Good example.
Pick one of those principles that you feel very close to and work on that one with that one person, maybe your neighbor. Then ask your neighbor to pass that information on to another neighbor. What you just did was starting to organize, and what you just did was starting to coordinate a movement.
Well, what I bring to it is my personal mission, my philosophy about the Earth Charter and what my role is. So I see myself as just sort of keeping the doorway open, introducing people to it, encouraging people to get more involved if they can, but also knowing that a lot of people might go off and do something else in their life that isn't necessarily a part of the Earth Charter Chicago group, but maybe they're doing something else that's either inspired by the document or possibly bringing it into some other arena. So the way that I see it is, you know, my commitment is, ever since I started doing the summits, is we have a monthly meeting and I'm there. The way I look at it, as long as I'm there, and even if one person shows up, at least, you know, I'm still holding that space. And sometimes we have waves. We'll have a period of time where we have a lot of people that are showing up and we're doing a bunch of things, and then it kind of seems to cycle down, and all of a sudden it starts to drift and there's, you know, a few people showing up, and then maybe we'll do another event or something, we get another surge. So personally, I kind of try to just be gentle with the process and know that it's not always going to look the same, and that's okay. And as long as I'm committed to still staying there, still showing up, still putting that message out there, I'm just keeping it going.
Okay. So I went round to meetings of each of these bodies to ask for their endorsement of the Earth Charter principles, and was successful, luckily. all of the above did approve, and so effectively the university has endorsed the Earth Charter. It's interesting because I think it is more powerful to have all of these different groups endorsing it separately, rather than just a proclamation from on high.
Right.
And I think that is important, just as you say. Yeah.
Sister Kathleen, what is the outcome you hope from your Earth Charter Community Summit?
Well, first of all, we want certainly people in the area to be aware of the Earth Charter. I don't think many people are now, so we want them to be aware of it, to be educated on it. and to go away committed to doing something. So we're going to bring some organizations who are already doing things and hope that people will sign up for those. And I think they'll see that what they're doing at any level is a part of a bigger whole, and they'll get hope from that hope, I think, is our biggest wish.
Yeah. The Earth Charter really offers hope.
Well, I started to do the best job I knew how in public relations and started talking to reporters and TV people who didn't help us much.
Did the reporters help?
The reporters were good, yeah. They kind of got behind this and gave us a major push for a small beginning thing. And on a very snowy day in December of 2004, at 2 o'clock when the place was ready to begin, there was nobody there. And I said, oh, this isn't going to work. But within about 5 minutes, all of a sudden, everyone arrived. And we had 30 people there that first meeting. And that stayed pretty constant ever since. New people come and old ones go. But
so if you have someone watching you right now who's thinking about the Earth Charter, what words of wisdom would you give them about what to do?
Read the Earth Charter.
Oh.
Read it over and over and over. The description of the planet that we all want to live on, and knowing that people all over the world have the same ideas. It makes this Earth feel like a safe place.
You've just met some of the people, wonderful people that have been hosting Earth Charter Community Summits all around the United States. And as you have learned, these are ordinary folks doing extraordinary things. And what brings them to the Earth Charter is their passion and their commitment to it. And that is what is central, and that is what is the key organizing factor for anyone in hosting a summit. So now is the time for you to become involved and for you to host an Earth Charter Community Summit. It's very easy to do. We meet and do this the second Saturday of every October. There's lots of help. The year 2008 is the UN International Year for Planet Earth, so it's a perfect time to be involved. We have big plans to do a technology linkage with all of the cities in the United States that are hosting summits on that day. So go to www.earthcharterus.org and join us now.